Hello everyone, welcome back to Orbit Unknown. Today, we're diving into a truly fascinating topic that might completely change the way you see the world. Stay with us until the end, because what you're about to discover is surprising, mysterious, and incredibly interesting. So, let's begin today's amazing journey. That sound you just heard is not something a composer created. It is not a film score or a dramatic effect added in post-production. It is a direct translation of radio waves captured by a real spacecraft orbiting a real planet over 1 billion kilometers from where you are sitting right now. That planet is Saturn. And the moment you stop seeing it as a pretty picture in a textbook and start paying attention to what it is actually doing, it becomes one of the most unsettling, most fascinating, most deeply strange objects in our entire solar system. Saturn is the 6th planet from the Sun and the second gas giant after Jupiter. From a distance, it looks almost peaceful, that smooth golden sphere wrapped in those unmistakable rings, the kind of image that ends up on classroom posters and screensavers. But that image is a lie of perspective, because the closer you look, the more wrong things you find. And we are going to look very closely today. Start with the rings. Everyone knows Saturn has rings, but almost nobody knows what those rings actually are, or what is quietly happening to them right now. Those rings are not a solid structure. There is no shell, no disk of metal or rock you could land on. What you are seeing when you look at Saturn's rings is billions upon billions of individual particles, chunks of ice, fragments of rock, grains of dust, each one traveling its own separate orbit around the planet simultaneously. Some of those particles are smaller than a grain of sand. Others are as large as a house. Together they stretch outward for hundreds of thousands of kilometers, and yet the entire ring system is only about 100 meters thick. 100 meters, a structure wider than most countries on Earth, and thinner than a city block is tall. And those rings are disappearing. Right now, as you watch this, Saturn is consuming them. Here's how it works. Saturn has one of the most powerful magnetic fields in the entire solar system. That magnetic field reaches out and interacts with the ice particles in the rings. Through a combination of solar radiation, sunlight, and the constant bombardment of microscopic dust drifting in from deep space, those ice particles become electrically charged. The moment that happens, the magnetic field takes over. It yanks the charged particle out of its stable orbit and pulls it downward, directly into Saturn's upper atmosphere. Not occasionally, not randomly, constantly, every single second, all the way around the planet, a continuous invisible rain of ring material is falling into Saturn. The planet is literally eating itself, dissolving its own most iconic feature one particle at a time, and there is nothing stopping it. Eventually, Saturn will have no rings at all. That postcard image that every generation has grown up with will simply be gone. A ring giant, becoming just a giant. But the rings are almost a footnote compared to what sits at Saturn's North Pole. If you pull up a real satellite image of Saturn and zoom in on the top of the planet, you will see something that should not be there. Something that makes no sense the first time you see it, and somehow makes even less sense the more you think about it. There is a hexagon at Saturn's North Pole, not a circle. Not a swirling chaotic vortex the way storms look on Earth or Jupiter. A hexagon, 6 straight sides, 6 sharp angles, a geometric shape so precise it looks like it was drawn with a ruler, sitting at the top of a gas giant where everything, every instinct, every model, every expectation tells you the atmosphere should be wild and turbulent, completely without order. This is a storm, an actual atmospheric storm with a diameter of roughly 30,000 kilometers. For context, the entire Earth is about 12,700 kilometers across. This hexagon is more than twice the width of our whole planet, and it rotates with a slow, smooth, almost mechanical steadiness that makes it even more disorienting to look at. We first photographed it in 1981 when Voyager 1 flew past Saturn and beamed back images that scientists initially assumed were instrument errors. Then the Cassini spacecraft arrived decades later, settled into orbit, and watched Saturn for years. The hexagon was still there. Same shape, same size, same position, unchanged. Terrestrial hurricanes last days or weeks. Jupiter's Great Red Spot, the most famous storm in the solar system, has been shrinking for decades. But Saturn's hexagon has been stable for at least 40 years of direct observation, and almost certainly far longer than that. We just were not watching before. And then Cassini looked deeper and found something stranger still. This hexagon is not a flat cloud pattern drifting along the surface. It is a tower, a vertical column of rotating gas that reaches hundreds of kilometers down into Saturn's atmosphere, geometrically shaped all the way through, anchored in the planet's interior. A three-dimensional geometric structure embedded in a gas giant. And above it, when Cassini examined the stratosphere overhead, scientists found a second hexagon sitting directly on top of the first. Same shape, same orientation, stacked like floors in a building. A multi-layered geometric formation, billions of kilometers from Earth, on a planet made entirely of gas. How does something like this form, and why does it stay? We can partially answer the first question. Saturn has no continents, no mountain ranges, no surface features of any kind to disrupt the flow of its atmosphere. On Earth, land masses constantly interrupt and distort wind patterns, which is why our weather is so chaotic and unpredictable. Saturn's winds flow completely unimpeded, and in laboratory experiments using rotating liquids at different speeds, scientists have actually reproduced hexagonal patterns that mirror what we see on Saturn. The physics can generate the shape. What the physics cannot yet explain is why the shape refuses to die. The leading theory is that Saturn's core radiates more heat than the planet receives from the sun, acting as a permanent internal engine that keeps the storm continuously powered. The hexagon has even changed color during our observation window. Blue when Cassini first photographed it in detail, shifting to gold years later within the same mission. The same storm, same geometry, completely different appearance. Probably seasonal. Probably. Nobody can say for certain. And the deepest mystery of all sits quietly underneath everything else, less visible than the hexagon, less dramatic than the disappearing rings, but in some ways the most troubling of the three. It is Saturn's magnetic field. Every planet with a magnetic field generates it the same basic way, through the dynamo effect, where electrically conductive fluid deep inside the planet churns in turbulent, disordered motion, and that chaos generates a magnetic field that naturally tilts away from the planet's rotational axis. Earth's magnetic poles are offset from its geographic poles by about 11 degrees. Jupiter is similar. Uranus, Neptune, all the same. This tilt is not a flaw. It is what the physics demands. Chaos cannot produce perfect order. That is not an opinion. That is a foundational principle of how magnetic fields work. Saturn's magnetic field is aligned to within less than 1/10 of 1 degree. It is so symmetrical, so perfectly centered on the planet's rotational axis, that by every model we have, it should be physically impossible. The interior of Saturn must be chaotic. There is no mechanism that could make it otherwise. Metallic hydrogen under crushing pressure, churning in turbulent flows, should generate a messy, tilted, irregular field the way every other planet does. Instead, something deep inside Saturn is producing a field of almost perfect geometric order,